Sophisticated children like to play games that other people like to play. Right? That's kind of what you tell your kids when they're playing a game like soccer or hockey. You say it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, it matters how you play the game. And really what you're telling your children is life isn't a game, life is a series of games, and the rules that govern playing the series of games isn't the same as the rule that governs playing a single game. And you don't want to be the winner of a single game, you want to be the winner of the series of games. And if you want to be the winner of the series of games, then you have to conduct yourself in a certain manner. And that's not arbitrary. It's so far from arbitrary that it even governs the behavior of rats. It's not sociological. It's not learned. It's not whim. It's not arbitrary. It's not opinion. It's an emergent property. So morality is an emergent property that emerges across a sequence of iterated voluntary games. Now then you might ask yourself, how do you have to conduct yourself if you're going to be the person that emerges victorious across an indefinite sequence of games? And the answer to that is, well, like the big rat, you have to play fair. And then you might ask yourself, well, if you watched people trying to play fair over 150,000 years and tried to infer what it looked like to play fair, what would your descriptions be? And the answer to that is, you would describe the hero, the individual hero, whose positive actions are constantly represented in drama and literature and mythology. In the West, I believe that we have, fortunately, managed to articulate the principles of fair, iterated play better than any society has ever managed in the past. I don't believe that that's because there's anything particularly special about us, because I believe that the principles of fair play, as I said, even govern the behavior of rats. But knowing this, or even appreciating as a possibility, puts a new twist on two ideas. One is that you should be proud of your culture. It's like, no, you shouldn't be proud of your culture. You should bloody well recognize that it got some things right, and that all of your good fortune is dependent on that, and then you should take the utmost responsibility for continuing to play the damn game properly. And you should have enough sense to be grateful for all the sacrifice that was made by all those people that came before you so that you could end up being the beneficiary of this eminently playable game. And so, I could say, well, what are the rules of the game? There's an idea in Genesis. This is the foundational story of Western culture. That being emerged from something like potential, from chaos, as a consequence of God's use of language, the Logos. Logos is the deepest idea of the West. And it means something like clear, competent, truthful, communicative endeavor. So there's an idea in Genesis that that's the spirit that God used to bring forth order from chaos at the beginning of time. When God employed the Logos to extract order out of being, out of chaos he extracted habitable order and then pronounced that it was good. And at the same time, when God made human beings, He pronounced them made in the image of God, which means that human beings have the capacity, that logos-like capacity, to speak habitable order into being out of chaotic potential. And the deep idea is that if you do that truthfully, then what you bring forth is good. That's allied very tightly with the principle of fair play. It's easy to play fair with someone who tells you the truth. You can communicate with them, you can trust them, you can take risks with them, you can cooperate with them, you can negotiate with them, and you can jointly engage in the endeavor to bring forth the habitable order that is good from the chaos of potential. When we insist that the immigrants who come to our countries to become beneficiaries of the game that we're playing follow the rules, we are not merely saying, we have a culture, you have a culture, you're in our culture, so you should follow our rules. What we're saying instead is, we have inherited a culture, and it seems to work. And it works well enough so that we're happy to be here, and many people would like to be. And if you want to come to our culture and be a beneficiary of the game, then you have to abide by the rules that produce the game. We're not saying that you have to do it because it's ours, or because we're proud of it, or because in some sense we're right as individuals or even as a culture. We're saying it because we've been fortunate enough to observe what the rules that make a functional society actually are, and sensible enough, thank God, most of the time, to follow them well enough so that there are a few countries on the planet that aren't absolute pits of catastrophe. Now, I didn't know what to say about immigration when I decided to do this talk, but I don't think it matters, because there are many complex things that can be said about immigration, about many of the problems that face us, but there's a meta question, which is not how do you solve a difficult question, but how do you solve the set of all possible difficult questions? And the answer to that is quite straightforward. Speak the truth and play fair. And that works. And so I've been communicating that as diligently as I can for the last 3 decades, predicated on my observation that we got some things right, that we should do better with it even, and that if we transformed ourselves, each and every one, into better people, predicated on the observation of that core identity, that we would then become collectively the sort of people who could probably solve any problem that was put to them, no matter what its magnitude. And so what I was hoping to do today, to set off this discussion about identity and immigration in Europe in the 21st century, is to say, be the sort of people that can generate the proper solutions.